we are moving into the first of the 9 topics, and this topic is blue economy policy. And as you could hear from the introductions from both Norway and from Brussels, policy is very important. And policy is what makes things possible or not possible, and that's why we need to have a big focus on having the most efficient policies available. We have prepared a text that I will go into for you. So all blue economy sectors, including fisheries, aquaculture, coastal tourism, maritime transport, shipping, port activities and shipbuilding will have to reduce their environmental and climate impact. We all know that. Tackling the climate and biodiversity crisis requires healthy seas and a sustainable use of their resources to create alternatives to fossil fuels and traditional food production. I don't know if you know this, but food production is one of the biggest emissions of greenhouse gases. Shipping is only a small part. Agriculture is a big one. In May 2021, the European Commission published its new strategy for a sustainable blue economy, Sinkevicius. As the European Green Deal and the SDG Agenda, Sustainable Development Goals, call for a transformation of the EU's economy, the Sustainable Blue Economy strategy takes a holistic approach to the EU's blue economy. The blue economy, as we heard before, covers a wide range of policy issues from responsible food systems to decarbonization, as well as biodiversity and coastal resilience to circularity, circular economy. And the new strategy outlines how to bring about environmental, social, and economic sustainability in these diverse fields. The strategy, the Sustainable Blue Economy strategy, offers a targeted approach to several key issues for the blue bioeconomy in the Baltic Sea region, such as fisheries, aquaculture, and maritime spatial planning. And of course, you have an issue in the lagoon. We have Lithuania and then EU, and then you have Russia and Kaliningrad meeting in the middle. And the fish, they don't know the borders, so they swim around. Anyway, the blue economy, bioeconomy in the Baltic Sea region, such as fisheries, aquaculture, and maritime spatial planning, as I said, it also reaffirms the EU's commitment to sea basin and macro-regional frameworks for cooperation, such as the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea. And now, according to data, the Baltic Sea, as you all know here in Klaipėda at least, is the 4th most polluted sea in the world and transports around 15% of the world's freight. It's also heavily affected by chemicals and eutrophication, with agricultural pollution and inadequate sewage treatment being major contributors. Studies show that almost 97% of the Baltic Sea is eutrophic, and that the area of anoxic bottom zones is increasing, toxic, now covering around 17% of the seabed. 17%. 150 years ago, such areas did not exist. Therefore, effective coordinated action is needed to reduce pollution and increase the resilience of the Baltic Sea to the adverse effects of nutrients. Otherwise, the Baltic Sea will simply become a swampy pond. Can you imagine that? In addition, there are challenges of pollution from the port of Klaipėda and the ongoing debate on what to do about chemical weapons on the Baltic seabed. With its 85 million inhabitants, the Baltic Sea region, and a surface of around 420,000 square kilometers, the Baltic Sea provides an unmissable chance to build a strong blue economy sector in the countries washed by its shallow waters. The war in Ukraine has highlighted the vulnerability of European Union energy supplies and underlined the importance of the energy transition to Europe's energy security. So this is the grim and serious backdrop for what we are now going into. And with me, or with us today, we have 2 very good representatives of Lithuanian government and European Commission. The first one we have is your own Minister of Environment, Simonas Gentvilas, who has sent us a recording that we will watch now, and then I come back on stage.
Dear Norwegian, Lithuanian, and in generally ocean friends, big welcome to you gathered in Klaipėda and online from Vilnius. 35 years ago, a report named Brundtland Report, which was done by United Nations and led by Norwegian Prime Minister Gro Harlem Brundtland, named what we know today Sustainable Development. It also set the key goals for our energy, biodiversity, and material recovery. It stated that we have to meet our present needs without compromising future generations' possibilities, meaning that we have to do our economic activities without taking our future generations' possibilities. But nonetheless, HELCOM, which compromises Baltic countries around the sea, and it's a commission developed by the countries surrounding by Baltic Sea, is showing that we are doing too little for our Baltic Sea. The pollution is increasing, biodiversity is decreasing, our wastewater emissions are not stopping, and the emissions are actually increasing in the Baltic Sea eastern coast, and this should be stopped. For instance, the depletion and damage has been done huge. Espersen family, which was originally fishing cod in Bornholm, in Danish island in the western Baltic Sea, is currently known as the biggest cod producer globally and also placed in Klaipėda. Nowadays, Espersen family and corporation is not fishing anymore codfishes. And just like that, because of pollution, because of eutrophication and overfishing, many other Baltic species of fishes are also overfished and not found in numbers enough for commercial fishing. We are also being urbanized around Baltic Sea, so there's multi-interest zones and conflict zones on the onshore has made economic activities much more profitable and viable on offshore matters. Maritime highways and spaces are multi-interest zones, but they provide much larger possibilities than certain economical activities onshore. We observe the logistics, energy production, oil and gas links stepping into the sea bottom and offshore spaces. And this is being done in a much larger tempo. At any given moment, we see 2,000 ships sailing in Baltic Sea. Windmill parks and offshore gas rigs are planned in almost every country of in the Baltic neighborhood. With so much damage done in the past, we must not do it further. And we must repeat 35 years old Gro Harlem Brundtland words. Our development must need needs of present without taking possibilities of future generation. And I'm optimistic. I know that Klaipėda Manifesto conference has gathered industry leaders that provide long-term sustainability not only in your ESG reports, but you are doing it in your innovation hubs and your daily practice. I see also universities that have been monitoring our maritime habitats and spaces and can provide you best environmental assessment knowledge for your future economical activities. I also see port authorities like Klaipėda Port, which is developing a green port strategy, and it has already understood that future logistics must become close to carbon neutrality and zero pollution. Governments and European Union will work with you to foster innovation, to equalize competition, and this is a decisive decade for our generation. In upcoming 10 years, Baltic winds must power our economies. Maritime logistics must provide material and energy dependence from our aggressors in the east, and Baltic countries know it's best that we have to develop those links as fast as possible. Maritime traffic, together with road traffic, will be included in the emission trading system in 2025 in order to foster cleaner delivery of those products and services and energy products. Meanwhile, updated HELCOM Baltic Sea Action Plan will set framework for our environmental task. We have to keep our diversity, and Baltic Sea has to be healthy and resilient. Baltic Sea should not be affected with eutrophication. Currently, territory of Lithuania, equal territory of Lithuania is dead zone in Baltic Sea. The future should be not expansion of this territory, but decreasing of this territory, and biodiversity should flourish. Baltic Sea should also not be affected by hazardous substances and litter. And we have also to develop environmentally sustainable sea-based activities, and you are there to speak about them. So best luck in your discussion, and I know that many countries around the Baltic Sea have their capitals of seashore. I'm by myself from Klaipėda, but I can state with honesty that Lithuania, despite the fact that Vilnius is not a coastal capital, has always faced west, and we always sought our innovations and trade in our Western partners. So thank you for this conference, and I wish you fruitful discussion.
So thank you to Simonas. It's interesting he brings up the Brunton report, because that came in 1987, Our Common Future, and used the word sustainability probably for the first time in that kind of document. And this was the first time I was a student at the business school in Bergen, so it made a great impact, and this is something we have lived with since then. But before that, this was not a big topic. Now, if he had been here now, I would ask him about his student years in Oslo 20 years ago, when he was doing his bachelor in sociology at the University of Oslo, where you have also studied. But that was before that, so you don't know him from then. But now we are moving on to another speaker who is now Brussels again. So Marius Vaščega, can you hear me? He's talking. Can we get some sound?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Hi, Marius. Yes, we can hear you. Nice to see you. And you are, I guess, you are in Brussels. No, you are in Lithuania. Why are you in Brussels?
I am in Lithuania.
Exactly, because you are the European Commission representative in Lithuania, and you know Sinkevičius very well, I have seen. And by the way, you and I have 22 mutual connections on LinkedIn. Great.
Very good.
But anyway, I just have to ask you before you have your say. How does it feel to be monitoring your own country, in your own country, on behalf of Brussels? Are you a watchdog or something?
No, I think it's a very good feeling, you know, to work for the Commission, but at the same time being Lithuanian, you know, to be able to help your own country. I think that's a double rewarding thing to do. EU is not an adversary; it's always you know, a helper, a crisis solver, a problem solver. This is how we try to position ourselves and to offer various solutions. And the same goes, by the way, for blue economy and for the blue economy strategy.
Yes, I guess you can say that to many Norwegians who never said yes to the EU back in 1994. It was a very small margin, though. But as I said, we are normally considered a EU country, except when it comes to customs, and we sometimes forget that we are not a EU country. But Marius, I guess you have a message to us. But how do you see working with Sinkevičius for so many years, being also part of his transition team when he was elected to the Commission back in 2018-19? How do you see the impact it has for Lithuania to be holding such a very critical and important position in Brussels when we just heard what I said about the Baltic Sea?
I think it's quite a big difference from before that. Indeed, somebody from the north, from the Baltic Sea, is holding a portfolio of oceans and fisheries. It brings the attention to the Baltic. It brings the attention to other regions of Europe too. I think Commissioner Sinkevičius, you know, also try to put a lot of emphasis with the European initiatives. We organized our Baltic conference a couple of years ago. You know, he really wants to make a big difference in the Baltic, and I think it's good. It's good to have a commissioner from the Baltics working on this portfolio.
So what kind of message do you have to us today at this conference?
Yeah, from my perspective, I was asked to speak a bit more about the blue economy, communication about the blue economy strategy that was produced already in 2021. I had myself been able to work on it, and I'm very happy for this invitation to be able to tell you a little bit more about the blue economy strategy.
Can I just ask one thing? Can I just ask one thing? This was made in 2021, before
Yes.
the Russian invasion of Ukraine in February this year. What has happened since then had any impact on the sort of implications of the strategy? Would you like to make another one, or is it still holding?
I think it does hold. I think it does hold. Certain aspects of it have been reinforced further. And in particular, one of those aspects is decarbonization and using offshore renewables. I think, when we were doing the strategy, it was coming from the fact that the European Green Deal has been putting all the sectors of economy on the sustainability path. And blue economy sectors, they are not different from this. They have to transform in order to survive. One of the sectors is the energy sector, and already at that moment we were speaking among ourselves and saying that without wind generation at sea, it's impossible to even come close to the very ambitious renewables targets that we are setting for ourselves. Now, with the Repower EU that has been, reinforced even further, we are speaking now about the higher renewables targets. We are speaking now about the go-to areas for deployment of renewables. I think this should be really, an additional impetus for everyone looking into the sector to start doing it. Member states will be now deploying and looking at which areas can be, named go-to areas, and instead of waiting for quite a long time before the permits are being given, that can be done much faster. So that is at least one element that has been strongly reinforced after the 24th of February.
So we understand that the invasion and this stupidity of the whole thing has been a setback in many ways for the green shift. But do you think that when we see how strong and united the European Union has been, and Norway, of course, we tag along on that, do you think that can have a good impact in the end?
I think it's actually, okay, there are various voices and there are various ways to look at the impact of the war on the Green Deal. And every crisis, we can go back to COVID crisis. There were always voices trying to make a detour for the Green Deal, saying that now it's not a time to do the Green Deal. Now it's not the time to invest. And I'm very happy that we at the EU were able to kind of stop this and to stay focused on our objectives. Why I'm saying this, for example, a response to the COVID crisis was the so-called Recovery and Resilience Facility, which is 700 billion across the EU of grants and cheap credits for the governments to invest. Actually, a huge amount of this money has been devoted to the green aims, and this is how we basically withstood, the difficulties in economy not to detour our Green Deal. Now, with the invasion, we are also reinforcing certain aspects of the Green Deal. We are certainly reinforcing energy, and I spoke about offshore renewables, but it's not only offshore renewables. We are also speaking about solar renewables. We are just yesterday, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has announced about the new hydrogen bank and how we can be using hydrogen more, because the technology is there. And the technology is actually necessary in the shipping sector. It can be used in the trains, in the railway sector. It's always the question on how to approach it. It's always the question on how to push it so that it would be more deployed. And that's one of the angles where we are investing even more. And actually, all the recovery and resilience facility, all these billions of euros that I mentioned to you, only 100 billions of them have been so far realized. So the majority of the money is coming now. And what the member states are trying to do, they are even looking to reform and to redo their recovery and resilience plans, and mainly to add to the renewables. So I think that we are reinforcing our Green Deal.
So all in all, Marius, I think you sound like an optimist.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Do you have a hope for the Baltic Sea? We heard all that sadness about the Baltic Sea, but do you have a hope for that to be fixed sometime soon, somehow?
We have to, we Lithuanians have only 99 kilometers of the sea. So, and we love each kilometer of those 99. So we really want, for it to be a good, a prosperous sea. And but for that, of course, a lot of work needs to be done. And this is not only renewables. This is not only pollution. This is a lot about agriculture, for example. It's many things that need to be done. And but I'm optimist. Huh? I'm sure we can be doing things.
I have a question for you towards the end here. In Lithuania, the aquaculture part is in the Ministry of Agriculture. And last year at this conference, when I was interviewing your Minister of Energy last year, I think it was that from the Semas, he said that, Tom, as seen from Vilnius, we don't see Lithuania as a maritime nation, as they do in Tallinn, Estonia, and in Riga, Latvia. Do you think, and he himself was from Klaipėda, do you think that has had an impact, that when you sit in Vilnius, you don't really see the sea at all? Has that had any impact on how you have been treating the sea in Lithuania until now?
I think it has an impact, but I think the impact is actually a good impact, because being a maritime nation means that you also know various ways how you use sea. You go fishing, you do trade, a lot of trade through the sea, you do many sectors of economy. And then when you are thinking on how to make it more sustainable, it sometimes becomes difficult, because you have certain traditions which are difficult to change, and we can see that in many places across the world. I think not being a proper maritime nation, I would not say completely not maritime nation, maybe not a proper maritime nation due to historical reasons. It was sea was not often part of the equation in Lithuanian history and in Lithuanian development, but it is now, and people have a very strong emotion to the sea, and they have rediscovered the sea regions of Lithuania now, especially during the COVID years. And you see more and more people moving to the regions at the sea, but they are moving because of the recreational reasons, and that kind of puts more emphasis on environmental aspects. So I think it's a good relationship that Lithuanians have with the sea, because they want to safeguard it, they want it to be cleaner, they want it to be nicer to enjoy it.
That's a very good answer. Marius, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you. Goodbye.
Thank you.